Right now, as you're watching this, there's a war happening inside your head, and you're losing. It's not the kind of war they make movies about. It's quieter, more brutal. It's the war between who you actually are and who you think you need to be to survive. Every morning, you wake up and put on a mask. Not a literal one, but something far more dangerous. You become the person your job wants, your family expects, your social media demands. And somewhere in that performance, the real you, the king of your own life, gets buried alive. Here's what nobody tells you about power. The most dangerous kind isn't held by politicians or CEOs. It's the power you've unconsciously handed over to everyone around you. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist who revolutionized how we understand the human mind, called this the ultimate tragedy of modern life. People who spend their entire existence trying to become someone else's idea of who they should be. Jung discovered something that will make your skin crawl. Most people never meet themselves. They live their whole lives wearing costumes, playing roles, following scripts written by others. They mistake this performance for living and wonder why they feel empty despite checking all the right boxes. But here's where it gets interesting. Jung also discovered that buried within every person is what he called the self. Not the ego that seeks approval, not the persona that tries to impress, but the authentic core that knows its own worth. This is your inner king. And right now, in 2025, as we're drowning in notifications, comparisons, and endless external noise, this ancient wisdom isn't just relevant, it's a matter of psychological survival. Think about it. You live in a world designed to make you forget who you are. Every app is programmed to capture your attention. Every algorithm wants to tell you what to think. Every advertisement whispers that you're not enough as you are. The battlefield for your soul has never been more crowded with enemies. And the only way to win this war is to remember something so simple it's revolutionary. You are the king of your own inner kingdom. The question is, will you finally claim your throne? The usurped throne. Why you're not leading your own life. Let me tell you about Marcus. He's 32, has a corner office, drives a BMW, and his LinkedIn makes everyone jealous. But last Tuesday, he sat in his car after work and stared at the steering wheel for 20 minutes because he couldn't remember the last time he did something because he actually wanted to do it. Not because it looked successful, not because it impressed someone, just because it felt right. Then there's David, who spent his 20s becoming the reliable guy everyone could count on. He's the man who never says no, who sacrifices his weekends to help others, who's built his entire identity around being needed. But lately, he lies awake at night wondering who he actually is when nobody needs anything from him. Both Marcus and David have discovered what Jung called the persona trap. Their whole lives have become performances, and they're so good at it that they've forgotten there's a real person underneath the act. The king, their authentic self, has been locked away while the people pleaser runs the kingdom. This is happening to you too, isn't it? You make decisions based on what looks successful, not what feels meaningful. You choose careers that sound impressive, rather than ones that make your soul come alive. You've become a master at living someone else's expectations while your own truth waits in exile. Jung realized that this psychological displacement is the root of most human suffering. We become strangers to ourselves, then wonder why nothing feels satisfying anymore. It's like being homesick for a place you've never been, except that place is your own inner world. The Shadow Kingdom, meeting your inner saboteur. But here's where things get really twisted. The biggest enemy of your inner king isn't your boss, your ex, or your circumstances. It's that voice in your head that sounds exactly like you, but wants to destroy everything you touch. Jung called this the shadow, all the parts of yourself you've rejected, ignored, or buried because they didn't fit the image you're trying to project. And here's the brutal truth. What you don't acknowledge controls you. Think about Alex, a brilliant entrepreneur who spent 2 years building a startup, then made a series of careless mistakes that destroyed it right before it took off. Or consider James, who sabotages every relationship just when it gets serious, because deep down he believes he doesn't deserve real connection. Your shadow knows your weaknesses better than your enemies do. It knows exactly what to whisper to make you give up, exactly when to strike to cause maximum damage. But here's what Jung discovered that changes everything. The shadow isn't evil. It's just protecting you from risks you've never learned to handle. Alex's shadow was protecting him from potential failure by destroying his business first. James's shadow was protecting him from abandonment by leaving before being left. The shadow becomes your ally the moment you stop pretending it doesn't exist and start understanding what it's trying to protect. The abandoned crown. What happens when you stop leading yourself? You know what the most dangerous moment is in any kingdom? When the king abandons his post. The kingdom doesn't just fall apart, it gets taken over by whatever shows up first. In your life, when you stop making conscious decisions about who you are and what you want, the vacuum gets filled instantly. Social media algorithms start deciding what you think is important. Marketing departments start determining what you desire. Other people's fears and expectations start writing your life story. This is why you feel exhausted all the time, even when you haven't accomplished anything meaningful. You're not tired from living your life. You're tired from performing someone else's script. Take Robert, who realized he'd spent 15 years building a career his father wanted in a city that made him miserable, married to someone who looked perfect on paper but felt like a stranger. Jung observed that people who abandon their inner authority become what he called psychological zombies, technically alive, but not really living. They go through the motions, hit the milestones, check the boxes, but there's no fire in their eyes, no passion in their voice, no joy in their achievements.
But let's talk about what changes when you finally step into your role as the conscious ruler of your own existence. Jung called this process individuation, the journey of becoming who you actually are instead of who you think you should be. Real psychological sovereignty isn't about controlling everything around you, it's about having unshakable clarity about what matters to you, what you stand for, and what you're willing to sacrifice versus what you'll never give up. I know a man named Steven who turned down a promotion that would have doubled his salary because it would have required him to compromise his values. His friends thought he was insane, but he slept peacefully that night for the first time in months. Why? Because his inner king had made a decision based on principles, not fear. Then there's Carlos, who finally admitted to his family that he didn't want to take over the family business. The conversation was painful, relationships were strained, but for the first time in his adult life, he felt like he was living his own story instead of inheriting someone else's. This is what Jung meant by psychological maturity. It's not about having all the answers, it's about knowing your own questions. It's not about never making mistakes, it's about making conscious mistakes instead of unconscious ones. So how do you actually do this? How do you reclaim psychological sovereignty in a world that profits from your confusion? It starts with what Jung called active imagination, the practice of deliberately engaging with your inner world instead of just reacting to the outer one. Every morning, instead of immediately checking your phone, spend 5 minutes asking yourself, what does my authentic self actually want today? Not what you should want, not what would look good, what do you genuinely desire? This isn't selfish, it's strategic, because when you know what you're protecting, when you're clear about your values and boundaries, you become incredibly difficult to manipulate. You can't be bought with empty promises or threatened with meaningless consequences. The world will test you. People who benefit from your unconsciousness will resist your awakening. They'll call you selfish when you stop sacrificing yourself for their comfort. They'll call you difficult when you stop being agreeable at your own expense. They'll call you changed when you stop being the person they needed you to be instead of the person you actually are. But here's what Jung knew that most people never learn. The moment you start living from your authentic center, you stop needing the approval of people who don't even know themselves. You become psychologically sovereign. You become the conscious king of your own inner kingdom. Look, Jung spent his entire career studying one fundamental truth. You can spend your whole life trying to become someone else's version of successful, or you can do the harder, braver thing, become authentically yourself. The first path leads to achievement without fulfillment. The second leads to a life that actually belongs to you. Your inner kingdom is waiting. It's been waiting while you chased external validation, while you performed for crowds who don't even know your name, while you built a life that looks impressive but feels empty. The throne isn't occupied by someone stronger or more deserving, it's just empty, waiting for you to remember that you were born to rule your own existence. The question isn't whether you're worthy of psychological sovereignty, you are. The question is, will you finally claim it? Here's what I want you to do right now. Don't wait till tomorrow, don't overthink it. Go to the comments and write one thing, just one thing, that you're going to stop doing to please other people. Maybe it's saying yes when you mean no, maybe it's pretending to be smaller than you are. Whatever it is, write it down. Make it real. If this video hits you where it counts, hit that subscribe button. Because we're not here to entertain you, we're here to wake you up. And trust me, this is just the beginning of reclaiming your inner kingdom.